Under new business item 2, review and approve the resolution to settle Goshen Corp tax certiorari for 1 Railroad Avenue. That is now included with 7 other properties, so we are not going to do that.
So you're taking 2 out?
Taking 2 out. Yep. And then Dennis, when we get under tax certiorari updated executive session, we'll talk about all 8, not just 1. Is there any other amendments to the agenda? Okay, privilege of the floor and any item on the item on the agenda. Okay, under reports then. George, let's start with you.
Okay. Okay. First, I just wanted to speak a little bit about insurance matters. We had a meeting on February 7th with Aaron Redner from Comp Alliance. He went over all of the different issues as far as our tail claims, which we don't have insurance coverage for. We're basically bare for that. And it's a difficult situation, but I think we're doing the best we possibly can. We started out in 07 with 12 cases. We're down to 8, and we're still trying to mitigate them as much as possible, which leads me to the second meeting, which is going to be on March 20th with Howard Bittner. I did give you that, I left a message for you, right? We're going to be meeting with Howard Bittner to go over all of the claims, especially the tail claims, but any of the claims about that to see whether or not we can do anything more with reducing the costs. And that's the insurance. As far as the JRC, Joint Rec, following information everybody should be made aware of. The JRC secured a grant in the amount of $3,500 from the Orange County Arts Council to organize a summer concert series for the community. The administration office is seeking music groups to perform this summer. So it's in the early stages, but we did do this a couple of years ago, and we got the grant again. We're still looking for a camp director for the summer camp and a health director. We have some applications for the camp director, but I don't think they have any applications yet for the health director. For your edification, health director is not a ND, or doesn't even have to be a RN. For the last couple of years, except last year they had somebody else, an EMT suffices for that particular position. So there should be a number of people, college people, that might be interested in that job. Zumba seems to be a very popular exercise class. There's another one that's going to be starting next week. It costs $35 for town residents and $40 for people outside. They're working on park rentals. There's a couple that have already come in. They're planning for all of the planning for the season coming up, and also starting work on the different parks. A fire suppression system was put in at the Craigville area, the kitchen area. That had been something that was needed for a long time. It was a requirement, and now it's actually in and functioning. And we also, at our last meeting, we set the, believe it or not, the spring egg hunt, which is set for Saturday, March 31st with a rain date on April 1st. We're almost into March already, and Easter is actually the 8th of April. So the 31st probably will be our egg hunt for the kids. And I think, let me make sure I didn't have anything else here. Oh, there was one other thing, which is in the early stages. Doug, you had passed this on to me, and you asked me to run that past the tobacco-free. We've been kicking that around for a while. If you this is for tobacco-free parks. In other words, you ban smoking completely in all of the parks. You have to develop a local law, have a public hearing, and so on and so forth. So in the early stages of this, I'll have to come back to us if we're actually going to do it. But in the early stage of this, what we were talking about was clearly if a guy is sitting in the dugout, we don't want him smoking next to a kid who's on the Little League team. But if it's 7 o'clock in the morning and this same individual is walking around at Salicia in the back area where the pond is, and he's smoking a cigarette, you know, that's a little bit different thing. So, I mean, do we want to ban it completely, even on those two extremes? So that's the issue that we were wrestling with, and I guess it will be continued. We're going to be meeting with these people here. There has been a number of different park areas, though, that have banned smoking.
Yeah, some municipalities have taken it
Right.
and done it.
Right. That's it, though.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, I just want to make one comment on George's or that Zumba music or whatever it is.
Zumba exercise?
Yeah, we get periodically a number of requests, if you will, with threats for royalties, copyright fees, etc. I know very little about it. I'm just not familiar. I know what you're talking about, but I'm not familiar with the particulars. But with this moment, we are not paying anyone, nor am I aware that we have to. You know,
I
license.
haven't got one of those requests for probably 3 years.
Yeah, I get them periodically.
Do you?
As the town
And
clerk.
basically what it is if we, in any of our enterprises, use taped or recorded
Right.
music, we have to pay a royalty to the people who produced it to start with.
That's the position they take.
Oh, I see. But what about Zumba itself? Is Zumba itself a registered trademark?
I suspect so. At least that's what their contention is.
And it has to do with the people who record the music and or write it, you know, royalties,
Yeah.
etc. Looks like Hollywood's copyright laws, etc. I'm just not familiar with it because I didn't think we were that active, if you will. But I'll certainly start paying more attention to it. I just wanted to let you know.
Well, there's a person that comes in, and we contract with that person
Oh, really?
to-
You've got a sub then.
to do that. Yeah,
Between the town. Oh, okay.
Right.
So then that person is the one who should be.
Yeah, I don't know of anywhere in...
I didn't know that too.
I don't know of anywhere in the town, or even the village, and in our joint recreation and whatnot, where we use music that is provided by us.
Right.
But, something we need to talk and look at.
So joint rec contracts with them?
Yeah. So
Senior
there's
center.
so there's
Senior
a.
center.
Can you do me a favor? I'd like to see that contract some point in time. Not
Oh,
tomorrow.
no, I don't think there's any formal contract.
I think we just hired him.
You know, like we hire people to do jazzercise or whatever it is.
Oh,
and
okay.
It's XYZ person. We pay them, I don't know what it is, $10 an hour, but there's no formal contract as far as I know.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah. No. I'm not really familiar with what it is, other than I guess they exercise to it.
Right.
Yeah, it's Zumba is a form of exercise, but it's like an aerobic exercise type of thing where you might have a mat or you have a little bit of incline.
It's not easy.
And
Well, I'm sure it's
dance.
copyrighted and maybe some of the music.
It's great exercise and it's very, very popular.
Yeah, it must be.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, May, if you two can...
Just information, I just
No,
wanted to be sure.
I'll ask.
Yeah, I wanted to make aware
It
of
actually
it.
is.
You know.
And the same thing could be for the senior center, because I'm sure they use for their exercise program some maybe some kind of music to jump around to or something. I don't know. Kenny?
Well, George, why don't you take the Zumba class and let us know? It would be interesting.
What are you looking to get rid of me?
Yeah.
Can you video that?
Everybody stop laughing.
Okay, very quickly. With all the controversy over the Waukegan River, trees up, trees down. I went to the Waukegan floodplain seminar too. I was joined by George Lyons and Neil Halloran and Sue Cleaver and Tom Hookie, and it was an interesting presentation. I got a little bit out of it, not a lot, but we are following up on that issue. And then I went to a presentation of what's the future of the Orange County Government Center. That was an interesting one, but you read a lot about it in the newspapers. We keep it pretty busy. And then on Monday night, we received a letter from Dick over about the 5 and 10K race. He's asking for our police chief. I called Howie Weiss, who was gracious enough to respond to me, and maybe he can fill us in on little details what he found out for us. But I want to thank Howard because he has really put a lot of effort into this. It was a great idea. So, Howard, maybe a little later on, you can fill the board in on what you did or didn't find out with that email.
Whenever we're ready.
Okay, whatever. Okay, so that's all. Want him to do it now? You want to?
Yeah, go ahead, do it now.
Kenny, I don't know what you got me into. I called his office. He wasn't there, Mr. Dick Overs. He left me a message, I wasn't home, saying he doesn't understand why we'd even be requested that the village always requested, Chief Water always requests fire and police. And he doesn't know why I'm even calling him about fire and police. So I'm throwing it back to you, Kenny.
Well, okay, what I said on Monday's work session was that possibly rather than hire, they want to hire 2 police officers for that event.
From the town.
So we thought if the fire police could handle such an event, Rotary wouldn't have to expend the money for the officers, and they could use that money basically to put right back into the community.
You told me to call him, he doesn't know what the heck I'm talking about.
I can understand that.
Okay. I talked to Pat Foley, maybe he'll explain to me, maybe I'll give him a call.
Give Mr. Dickover a call. We already work the 5K and 10K races.
Okay.
And we double up at posts. You know, we go down by Green Street, by Sunoco, which we block off there. So we have no problem spreading guys out.
Okay, we just thought...
What it was is on Monday night we signed a contract, basically a contract allowing, they requested that they be allowed during the Great American Weekend to have the 5 and 10K races, and that they would request 2 police officers, and that they would pay for them. And so that's where Kenny's coming from. Well, why would we want to do that when, in fact, if the fire police could do it or would be willing to do it voluntarily, then that money that they would be paying us for our police could go back toward the charity that they would support. So that's
We have no problem. I left a message to Mr. Dickover. I explained to him that just a letter has to go to Chief Kaplicki, the chief of the department,
Gotcha.
and he approves and disapproves it. He approves it, he gives it to Mrs. Howie, see if you can get a detail.
Good. Sounds great.
Okay, that's all. Thank you, Howard, about this.
Yeah, thank you for your input.
If it works, it works. If it doesn't, we try.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What else you got, Kenny?
That's it.
Okay. Lou?
Okay. I have a few items. First of all, as far as the senior center is concerned, I just want to read this off. On March 21st, which is a Wednesday, from 4 to 7, the Goshen High School will be sponsoring a dinner for Goshen seniors at no cost. And also after the dinner, they're going to have a play, which is The Wizard of Oz. So if any senior wants to attend that, please contact Ellen over at the Senior Center. The number is 294-8545. Again, 294-8545. It's a nice event. They had it last year. All right, that's that. Secondly, concerning the Senior Center, last month I reported the electrical line that was cut or broken, possibly because of a plow or something. And me and Ken went out there. It happened actually the night before. We were on a form until the next day when there was no power in the building. We secured the building. We secured countywide to take care of it. And it was a major project because it had to do with the main line coming in from in front of Sereski's. They had to get a cherry picker and all this other stuff, and they redid everything, which Sean did a nice job. And but the reason I'm reporting this is because of the fact the bill was $6,500, and the insurance company picked everything up except the $1,000 deductible. So we got reimbursed by the insurance company. Okay. Also in the senior center portion of it, the rentals are still doing fine compared to last year. Let's switch over to highway. As you know, highway is also part of Dial-A-Bus. I just want to reaffirm that the public knows, and we have posted this, and it's been in the paper, that on March 5th, at our work session at 7:30, there'll be a public hearing concerning the Dial-A-Bus on fare increases and a possible reduction of service. So that's been posted. It's posted on the bus. It's been in the paper, but it's just a reminder so people that have concerns and want to know more about it, please attend. Last month I reported, as far as the highway department, as far as the great weather that we're having, and that we're not using any salt and sand. But anyway, I just find it being a first that from last month to this month, the weather's just been great. So anyway, hopefully we get through the next month and we'll be saving a lot on the salt and sand. But I just want to explain one thing as far as salt and sand is concerned. We signed a contract and we have to guarantee that we're going to take 75% of what we're allotted because it's a state bid. So we're going to probably make accommodations to store this salt, so next year our budget, we'll have some of that salt already there. So hopefully we'll do good for the next month. Other than that, I just informed Kenny that from a water and sewer standpoint that we had a water main break over at Stonehenge this morning. It was taken care of after a few hours. They found the break, and it's all back in order. Other than that, I don't have anything else.
I just want to add to the report. We received our first sewer bill for the two developments, Arcadia Hills and Hamiltonian Park, under our new IMA. And I want to thank Lou. We'll do a sharp eye and understanding of the new IMA, saved an additional $16,000. They seem to be able to mix up, and I want to thank Lou and Bill Standish. It's a great, someone's watching this, so thank you, Lou.
Thank you.
Yep, good. Thank you very much. Okay, Ken and myself and Dennis Lindsay are going to be meeting sometime in the very near future. Dennis Lindsay is the engineer from Fourth Town, Rigg Associates. And what we want to do is take a look and develop a path forward in regard to reducing the inflow and infiltration in our two subdivisions. And so we'll be talking about that, perhaps running a test and doing inventory, and we'll be moving along on that. So it is a very important item, and I look forward to that. And I'm going to, once we develop the test and we get involved in all this, I'm going to ask Ken to take the lead on this because it's going to take some legwork to be out in the field and make sure that it's moving along. I'd also like to highlight what George was talking about with insurance. Insurance anymore is one of the most important and expensive items in our budget, whether it be it health insurance, workers' compensation insurance, liability insurance, etc., etc. And we as a town have reduced our insurance bills significantly in the last 3 years since we asked George to be the Commissioner of Insurance. And one of the reasons why we've done this is because we have continual meetings with the insurance providers, and we put them on the hot seat. We don't wait until it's time for the renewal. We do it all during the course of the year. And in what George was talking about, these tail claims, they cost us money because we're not insured on them. These are injuries that have occurred in the past that we still have liability on. Any new injury, the insurance company will cover. So my hat's off to George, keeping us honest, calling these people, making sure they come. And we really grill them because it's money in the bank when we can save it. On Monday I did talk, and the press wasn't here then in terms of the Chronicle. We did get a community development block grant of $4,500 that we will support the Goshen Ecumenical Food Pantry Incorporated, and so that's in the process. The last item I have is Dennis was down at the Association of Towns and Village meeting in the city, and he was having breakfast at a table, and this person was sitting next to him and started quizzing him about police protection and things in Goshen, and what is Goshen like, and this and that, and how many police do you have, and all that. And after he asked a few questions to Dennis, come to find out he's a reporter for the New York Post. And so since then he's called me and he's called our budget officer. And I gave him a copy of the presentation I gave the public back in November with the budget. But one of the key items, and this is pursuing, evidently doing a bigger job for New York State. Okay? Our pension costs for the police went up 70% for 2012. Not 7, but 70%. We, I think, have 10 officers, and it went up $86,000. So it's $8,600 per employee. And of course, they exclude that from the 2% tax cap levy. So you don't see it in the 2%. But the problem is, where in heaven's name, and we got this information 4 days before we went through the budget presentation. As I told the man in the New York Post, I said, you know, I'm angry at the people in Albany because we got the bill 4 days before, and where in hell do you get $86,000 in 4 days? Plus, for everybody else, it went up 40%. Where do you get that? And I don't remember what that number was. But it is definitely a problem in the state of New York, and all we hear out of the comptroller's office is, oh, we're in great shape on our pension system. Well, if they are, it sure doesn't show it to us down here. So anyway, maybe we'll see in the days to come some expose on New York State and what's going on around, again, pensions.
Just to expand on that, the day I met the reporter, he had just come from a presentation by Napoli, our controller, who painted absolute roses what a great shape the state was in on the pensions. Right. And I didn't attend that lecture, so I didn't know that's where he'd come from. And so his questions were more or less almost defensive, like, but isn't, you know, et cetera, et cetera. And so when he told me about it, the next day, I think it was Wednesday, if you get the New York Post, they did a big expose on the police department in Long Island. I want to say Northport, it was basically Suffolk County, that they have a tremendous budget problem. I mean, the average pension after 20 years is 110 plus disabilities. They're running over 90% disabilities in their police force at retirement, the officers. So he had interviewed them. He talked to us and followed up with Doug and said he was also dealing with somebody upstate because what's interesting, as I told Doug about these conferences, they're from the municipal point of view. So naturally you have your elected officials, your Schumers, your Napolis, etc. And they come in and paint a picture like you'd swear we were in Texas. And we have all kinds of industry. And you didn't know you were in the same state. And the Post is not the New York Times or the Wall Street Journal. But to their credit, they're looking into it, you know. Right. The first article, though, was quite good when I happened to see on Wednesday. And my understanding is this one, whatever he's going to do with it vis-a-vis Goshen, is going to come probably over the weekend.
Saturday, Sunday, Monday.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just editorial comment, but it was absolutely revelatory to him when he started talking, saying, that's not what the controller said. And I'm like, I don't know what the controller said. We can't be talking about Goshen. You know, so we can speak on it.
It was funny, you know, Phil and myself and the budget officer went to New Paltz, maybe 2 weeks or 3 weeks before all this, and the comptroller said there, oh, our pension system's in great shape, it's fully funded, et cetera, and we were led to believe that we're going to have a 3.5% increase until D-Day came 4 days before our final calculation. And it offered by a few percent. So anyway, I just say that because evidently it's still alive and well, and the press is beginning to look at that, and maybe, and we'll see what happens.
Well, it was an absolute topic of discussion by everybody at the conference. Not formally, but in terms of, because they were all walking like, what the hell is he talking about, pardon the expression.
Yeah, but it's funny because Cuomo today announced that our pension can't go on the way it's going now.
Right.
He wants a total revision of for new employees,
guys.
not you guys. So there's one guy saying it's great shape, and the company saying we have to
In fact, they referred to Cuomo as drawing a line in the sand.
Yeah.
He made it known to the
Exactly.
unions it's not going to happen. You're getting a new tier.
Well, one of the other things that you were saying that 90.
On a 401k.
Yes,
That's
what
what they would like to put in tier 6.
You were saying in Suffolk County that the police department, that 90% of the policemen retire with a disability. Work related? Is that what you said?
That's what
And what happened?
no, I do not know.
He didn't say, he was told that.
I was told that.
You told it. Okay.
Because
In this particular town, I want to say Northport, but
yeah, they're all like they all man.
But I think for the public to know is when a police officer goes out on disability near their retirement, they retire with disability, instead of getting a 50% pension, up to 50% of their salary, they get 75%. And that 75% is state and federal tax free. So it's over 100% over their current salary. So it's a real incentive. I mean, but that's what's breaking the back of the New York State pension system. When you have to put more in to pay for people taking out. So it's an Albany problem. It is not a Goshen, New York problem, or a Poughkeepsie problem, or a New York City problem. It is the state legislature needs to do something. help us out. Anyway, enough on reports. Under new business, on Monday we had the assessor come in and talk about the status of the property revaluation, and it's coming to a crescendo here. It's going to be completed fairly soon. Okay? And one of the things that occurs as a consequence of all that is everybody's going to get a notice of their new tentative assessment. And that will come in the mail. And when they get this in the mail, it says your estimated tax was derived using current budgets. Oh, what they do is they took your old assessment, which was probably 50% market value. They put down the market value because we're reassessing at market value. Okay? And what they'll do is they took the 2011 school tax that we've already paid. And what they did is they calculated the school tax under your new assessment and your school tax under your old assessment to see what the difference would be. What happens is the rates change. In other words, you're paying taxes under the old system on 50% of the market value. Now you're going to pay it on 100% of the market value, so the tax rate is half. So what this is going to show the public what this revaluation is going to have on their particular property. So, and I asked the assessor, I said, well, what does this really mean? She said, well, probably a third of the people will go up, a third of the people will stay the same, and potentially a third of the people will go down. But it's going to be within hopefully a small bandwidth. But if you are satisfied with your new assessment on your property, as shown in the notice, you need not take any further action. If you have questions about your assessment, you may schedule an appointment to speak with a representative from the assessor's office. The assessment disclosure meetings, and there will be several meetings in this room, will be by appointment only from March 19th through March 30th. And they'll be held from 9 in the morning to 5 at night, most of those days. So all this will be coming to people in the mail. Okay? And this is going to be the conclusion where we begin to communicate with the public on what their new assessment will be under this new valuation. And so people have concerns or questions, this and that, all that will be recorded. It'll all be fed to the assessor. There may be changes made, there may not be changes made. Whatever, we have the grievance. The grievance day is Tuesday, May 22nd, so it's sometime in the future, 2012, and it'll be between 2 and 4 in the afternoon and 7 and 9 in the evening. And that, again, will be published, and people know that they can come in here and grieve their... And we have that grievance day every year. That's one day a year. So, but anyway, I'm saying all this so that just information is coming down. We're getting near the end of this. The new valuation system is to be computerized versus manual, so that if someone in the past wanted to know what the value of their house was, we would have to go through a lot of cards and this and that and all the comparables to find out what the value is. Now, they can extract that information from the database, along with photographs and all kinds of dimensions and all kinds of other things, ages of houses, recent sales, etc. So it is going to be, and we'll be the second ones, I think, in Orange County with this system, and only like the 12th in the state of New York. The state of New York wants anybody going forward to do this, so we're doing it in Orange County in a big way. We'll be looked at, see how well it works. We're working with the county and with the state on this, and with a private company that's working with it. So, any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. So now it's open privilege of the floor, or anything that anyone would like to talk about. Jerry?
Dennis, was there any talk about the 211 retirement waivers from this reporter?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Informal or formal, no, never came up. You know, I got the distinct impression, Jerry, as I told the supervisor, that there was a revelation almost to the news media that there was such a dichotomy of position from the state officials and everybody there, some 1,200 local officials. And it piqued their interest as to how the same people on the same team, in theory, were so far apart. And that's what it stemmed from, if you will. But the presentations never touched on 211. Were very rosy. I don't know.
The disparity almost seems like a Saturday night love affair.
Well, you know what it is? It's a state. The state passes the laws, the state sets the mandates, they pass them down, and guess what? You guys pay for them. Whether it's Medicaid, federal level, to pension, it is what it is,
The other thing, Doug, talking about this reval, I don't think there's any houses in Goshen that have risen in value. They've all decreased. How does that affect this reval?
Yeah, the market value is what, basically what you do is you say, let's take the school tax for 2011. You have to collect so much money for the school tax with the number of dollars. So no matter what the value of your home, whether it's decreased, and most of them have decreased, okay, they're going to value it at full market value in this assessment. So the rate in dollars per thousand is going to change to equate to the number of dollars they're going to have to collect. So a lot of people think, well, what happens is the values of my homes go down, they're going to collect less money from it. More. Well, that's the way it would normally be, because just to the value, when you use the fair market value versus the
assessment.
You're wrong in your thinking. I see you. No, let me finish, okay? Because I'm trying to make a different point. You got me off my train of thought.
Sorry.
Okay, no problem.
You're dealing with me, not him.
The fact is,
can anybody deal with you?
He's got the camera.
People think because the value of their home has gone down and they can't get as much money for it, that they're going to pay less tax. Well, they are under the current system. But where everybody's coming down and they finally figure out the actual fair market value of your home, the tax rate's going to be such that they then, whatever the values are, compositely, when they collect that amount, it's going to equal what they need. And that's what this is all about.
Also, I do this every time we have a reval or assessment. One thing the public has to understand is when an assessment is established, the only data that comes to the assessment office, other than inspection, is purchase price of the lot, construction costs, purchase price. So people who bought or constructed years ago have years ago assessment numbers, unless there's a reval. So many times what happens is some of the more established people who have been here for a long time will see an adjustment in their price because their price was by $1990. Okay, inflation is factored in to a certain level, but you've got a lot of consternation. So it's not just paying for the budget, it's a question of trying to level out and bring current everybody's valuations. Right. 2012 valuations. Not my house built in 1986 as opposed to someone who built the same house today, because the numbers are astronomically different. And that's a real problem and a real adjustment.
Well, and then there's they call there's a factor that's used every time a home is sold in the town of Goshen, that information goes to Albany, and they come up with a factor that's used in an equation to determine what everybody's, even though your value might be this, they tax it.
It's the equalization rate.
Equalization rate, they call that. So it is complex. It was time for the reval, because from here on out, instead of having a 50% or a 60% value of your home compared to the market value and screwing with it, what we're going to do now is we can update it to 100% every year. That's the goal. So we're going to get out of this equalization rate because it's going to be current, it's going to be on the computer, and values of homes will be adjusted based on what the market is bearing. You know, everybody at the same time.
Yeah.
So even though your home may not sell or had it up for sale, you're going to be given a value based on, all of us will be given values on our properties based on what the
And
activity
if done fairly and accurately, which is obviously we're monitoring to see what it is, it's the fairest system. It's an absolute ideal utopian fairness system. And hopefully through those conferences that Doug was referring to, if there are any aberrations or errors, if you will, the people will bring it to the attention and they'll be adjusted for
And
it.
I'm certain there'll be a lot of valid questions, and people will go back and say, you know what, we need to make an adjustment or something. So hopefully it'll be few, but with 5,500 parcels, more than likely that's going to be the case, where something's been put in the computer wrong or whatever it might be.
And just one last comment, as Doug knows, I know the board knows, you'd be surprised, you'd be shocked how many factual errors are on the assessment cards. Either because the homeowner didn't tell us he put on an addition, we didn't pick it up, he finished his basement, he put a sunroof on, and or we got him for 3 fireplaces, and he has either one or none. You know, it's that type of thing. So
We got rid of his pool.
yeah, it's a good opportunity to fairly adjust vis-a-vis the other properties in town and your peers, so that everybody's paying, in the words of Obama, their fair share. Yeah.
You know, it's interesting because truly it happened to me. I took the silo down. I had part of the barn cave in. With
You didn't
snow.
need that missile anyway.
Okay? So I hauled it away. And you'd think that I know enough to go in and say, excuse me, my property's changed. I didn't. Okay? So, but then there are a lot of other people will finish the basement without a building permit, and we'll never know it. And then all of a sudden it's there.
Yeah, but that always catches up to them when they sell at closing.
Yes, it
Well,
does.
you see, that's exactly
But you never get the
right.
back taxes.
You gotta leave it.
They come in, they
Right.
get a certificate of compliance, which they're entitled to, and then it's like, you know, they've escaped whatever number of years.
But now
Good
that's going
point.
to be
I thought about
updated. It'll be updated every time someone lists it. That's the other thing. Every time someone lists a house, it goes in this computer system. I mean, it's all kinds of things, that sources of information that go into this thing. So it'll be as current as we can possibly have it. Put it that way.
So they base this, if I'm correct, we'll say some of the older houses in the village.
Right.
I mean, these people could get killed.
No, there are factors on that too.
Right. For the
Because
age.
they're depreciated for age because they're not the same.
So there's the cost, then there's depreciation.
Yes,
There's
there's factors in.
Factors in there.
And in fact, if you think about it, Jerry, I know you've been interested in tax certiorari's in the past. This ideally should even limit a lot of those. It won't eliminate them, but if you follow, the best data is comparable present sales, what your neighbor sold for, how comparable your house is to his. And this will eliminate a lot of these. It's been around for 10 years or 12 years, and you know, with this improper or old data. So it's bottom line. It's my philosophical bent is such. It's the fairest system that you can come up with under the present circumstances. The tax system is not the best in New York State.
Well, it's interesting.
There's a guy come to me, he says, my God, I got a letter today.
No, it's gonna be
63% they're jacking up the value of my house.
Yeah, there's going to be some consternation.
This letter will explain, and then the reason why they're going to use the 2011 school tax calculation is so people can see, no matter what the verbiage is, they'll see the money may be about the same.
Right.
Without that explanation in there, and that example, people will be falling off the edge of the earth saying, I'm going to be at the meeting.
Can I jump in here on
You
this
got
point?
it.
Because that really is where I was shaking my head.
Okay.
Not that I disagree with anything you've been saying about the ratios and relationship of all this, but what I think people need to understand is that the amount of money that a municipality needs to raise is not going to be going down. It's going to be going up or constant.
Right.
That's a fixed number.
Exactly right.
The amount of money to be raised is produced by the levy. The levy is a levy on an assessed base. As your assessed base goes down, coming back to Jerry's question about values going down, because of that fixed relationship, it means that your tax rate is going to go up, which is a discussion that I've been having with board members individually and publicly here. I believe that we're in trouble because as your tax rate escalates, there's a feedback, a back pressure on the assessed base, the value of property. The higher your tax rate, the further it drives down the value of your property. And as the values of your property drop, it then feeds back to raise your tax rate.
Unless new ratables. And that's the problem with no growth and no new construction or commercial ratables.
Exactly.
That's,
and
we've been going through.
I've been beating that drum about developing.
See, years ago,
commercial ratables.
Unfortunately, I was here. Phil was here also. He's not here tonight. There were times when even when our tax rate would increase by anywhere from single digits to double digits, the assessment base would increase appreciably more than that.
Right. Exactly.
We were able to fund it.
And
as Goshen expanded out to 17, down Matthew Street, there were all kinds of things going on.
And that's why we're in trouble. That's exactly my point. That's why we're in trouble, because we have a diminishing assessed base, a decreasing assessed base at this point in our economic history. And that can only drive up your tax rate, which feeds back into driving down property values.
And then never forget, we're 52% tax exempt.
Well, I was about to say, we're
start off behind the
52% tax exempt in
Absolutely. That's all additive to the problem.
Yes. But we have a spending problem in New York State, folks. And we've got to fix that spending problem.
Yeah.
We pay 178% of the national average on property tax. So we're 78% above the national average.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that at all.
And that's a spending problem. It's like Washington, D.C. has got a spending problem. And when they come to grips with that, things are going to get better.
My concern and focus is how do we deal with it specifically and locally. And that's where I think we're in trouble. And we've got to start not just talking about concentrating provision of services. We've got to start moving towards doing that.
Sure, I agree.
I did have a couple of questions.
Okay.
Make him short. I have to go home early tonight. Make him short.
He does.
You always have to go home early. On the senior center
when you ask these questions.
I know you missed me on Monday because I wasn't here.
We did miss you.
There's a follow-up to that, but the tape is...
We didn't miss you on Monday because none of us was here Monday. The meeting was Tuesday.
Tuesday,
All right,
excuse
so
me.
you know.
Yes, I do know. I was at a planning board
We like Neil Bennett.
for the village. On the senior center with the O&R line coming in, I always learn something at these meetings, and I am curious legally how this plays out. It was an O&R line with, I assume, an easement across the old Sureski property. Shouldn't it have been O&R's liability?
No.
Since it's their line?
No, they take it from the top of where their service comes in.
Top of the pole.
Top of
After
the
it
pole.
leaves
Just
the
like
top of the pole, it's the user.
But
like in
it
your
wasn't
house.
their choice to run across the Sureski property with the easement?
It wasn't their choice.
No,
It was some kind of an agreement. I wasn't around when they built the senior center, so I don't know. But that portion was our responsibility. And from what I heard, Sureski allowed that pole to be put there.
Right.
All right. So that's as far as I know. The only thing I was concerned about is securing the building, making sure it didn't freeze
I
up,
understand.
and the fact that we repaired it and we got 90% of our money back.
That's all good. I was just interested to learn something about the legalities because it seems to me it should have been O&R's obligation.
when they make determinations of your service wires, they call
Right.
it. That's it. So if it happened on our property, it would be a different story. But it's Sureski's.
What role did the village play in resolving all of this?
What role?
What comes out of senior fund, all right?
Since it's a shared situation.
They'll pay half of the...
But did they actively engage in resolving any of this?
These two guys
No,
did.
Lou and I took care of it.
And our people upstairs did the insurance work.
So they were just along for the ride.
They would have flagged me.
Let me put it.
Had they known about it, I'm sure they would have.
I informed Pete Smith that day what was going on because he's my counterpart liaison. I did my due diligence to let him know what was going on. And then from there, I did what I had to do. That's all.
And I notified the mayor, so we had both of them.
On the pensions, that you were talking about the pension cost,
Right.
with there being 75% on the disability added to the, I assume that's additive to what the pension would have been?
No, the 75% is when an individual somewhere, an employee, whether it be in Goshen or Syracuse or somewhere in Long Island, if they are injured, work-related,
Right.
and they're retired from that, instead of getting 50% of their, they normally would go out at 50% of their
Right.
salary. They'll go out at 75%.
Okay. Now, the question,
And that is, I don't know where that comes from. Is it pulled from the pension system totally? Or, I mean, I don't know.
okay, here's my follow-up on that. Is that subject to annual escalation index to CPI or COLA?
Oh, I don't know.
It is.
Yes.
It is,
It-
that's
it-
managed by, that's managed
So-
by the Board of Pension.
So that pension then
Pension in
escalates
New York
on an
State.
annual
It
escalator. On the assessments, when the notice goes out, so you can look at your new reval,
Right.
and you'll have the ability to go online and see your new numbers.
You're going to have it on this piece of paper.
At that time, will everybody's new reval be available online, or
Probably not.
so when my new number
I mean, I don't know that.
when I see my new number and I want to find out if it's fair relative to my neighbors, I won't be able to go and see what their new reval number is.
I don't know.
Under the intention is it will be. I don't
It
know
will
at this
be,
time.
I know eventually it will be because I can go to the county
I don't know
now.
about this first
Certainly,
round.
that's how you're going to, for example, if you're going to have a SCAR or a
Right.
tax certiorari, today you pay someone to pull that manually
Right.
for you. In the future, it'll be.
Well, you can just go to the county site and see it now.
Right. See, this is all loaded into the county, but I just don't know how fast they're going to get up.
Well, I don't know if this board has any input with the assessor's office, but if you do, I would suggest, because I guarantee you people are going to be very interested in this, as soon as possible, before it comes to grievance day or meeting with the Board of Assessment
Well,
Review,
but-
it should be possible as soon as possible to see comps on the reval.
Well, let me say this. This is a new system. We're the first up to bat. There are a lot of things that we're going to learn as we go.
Right.
We're moving as quickly as we can with the resource we have. We're
Right.
working with the state of New York. We're working with the county.
Understood.
And so I don't know. These are things.
Well,
and I think ultimately it'll be done.
If you
fine.
have any feedback to
Well, we're the
Ms.
ones
Sewell's,
doing it, so we'll give feedback.
I would urge that those comps be available at the earliest possible date so that people can make some sort of an appraisal of whether or not their situation meets their quality of
I know
fairness.
this. Let's say you're concerned about your property.
Right.
I know that you would be able to come into the office.
Right.
And they can pull it up and give it to you. Now, you may not have access to it yourself.
You talk about my numbers.
Yeah, your property.
Right.
That you're paying.
But if I want to know if my reval...
No, I'm talking
is-
about the comparables with you.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
See?
Yeah.
I mean, because when you have a SCAR, or a tax certiorari, what we do is we pull all that. In the past, it's been manual.
Right.
And in the past, you would hire a tax attorney or someone to do it for you.
Right.
But now, we're going to be pulling it up electronically, digitally, and we'll give it to you. I mean, you'll have the same information. We're not trying to beat anybody out of anything. You'll have the same information
Right.
we have.
And I'll be able to say exactly which comparables you used,
Yes.
rather than
Yeah.
having to guess.
Yeah.
Last item on the list is, and I spoke to Mr. Kaplicki and to you, Mr. Supervisor, on Monday about the Maplewood situation prior to the executive session.
Right.
Not looking for you to discuss anything which might be litigation or negotiation involved, but can you sketch out for people what the outlines of that situation are, what the matter is, or what it concerns? Because I know that this is of great concern to a wide
Just
number.
very briefly, because we're still in what I call the investigatory stage and exchange of information with the petitioner. Simply put, if you remember, Maplewood was resolved pursuant to a stipulation. It was a stipulation entered into against, with regards to prior litigation, whereby part of that stipulation outlined the footprint, if you will, of what the project would look like. Based on that footprint, certain representations and agreements were part of it, indicating how the area would be serviced by sewer, water, whatever the case. When they came back in just recently, I want to say last week.
Thursday, the 16th.
Okay, to the planning board, some of the stipulations as agreed to by the applicant or petitioner were not adhered to. So it was made known to them, like, no, unless you've rewritten this thing unbeknownst to us,
this is not what was contemplated. So what they're going through now is a line-by-line review to make sure that the petitioner, in good faith, made errors, or maybe just went a different planning way, as opposed to what they had promised us would be the case. And then again, general terms, we're looking at the specifics now, and it's not finished yet.
But I put it on the agenda as an executive session, just so I could share the board. Board, this potentially could end up in litigation. Nothing more. I mean, because, you know, no one's come to this board review. They went to the planning board.
Which is right. Just let me interject. The word litigation doesn't mean we're at loggerheads. It was just pointed out to them, like, wait a second, it was our understanding it was going to be done in this manner, and there was genuine bewilderment, I am told, by the planning board attorneys and the petitioner's counsel. We'll have to look at that. We didn't realize. It's, again, so it's I call it a good faith error or errors, and they're reviewing it now.
It didn't play out there.
Right. I mean, no litigation was threatened either way. But that's the concept of the evil with which we were operating once we settled.
If I can add, because it wasn't an open public session at the planning board, the big issue that was discussed, referring it back to this board, was the proposal, which was not in the stipulation, for them to hook into the water supply of the village of Goshen.
Right. See, that's not correct. In the stipulation is that they were going to bring the water system or water availability integrate into Hamiltonian Park. It was never a contemplated.
You mean in the stipulation?
Right.
Yes. This is what I'm saying is that they came in with a third option, which was not one of the two.
We were unaware of.
Right.
And that's when it was pointed out to them, and they were like, "Oh my goodness!"
We signed a piece of paper saying, "Okay, we'll settle this suit." We were involved in a lawsuit.
Right.
We will settle it with this.
Right.
But when they came to the board, it was something different.
Right.
And so all that was what I brought to this board on.
And let me make clear that the only reason that I'm raising this tonight is that it is of concern both to people in the village and Ham Park that this is now under discussion. So I just want to make it public.
In fairness, though, that's not really correct. It's under discussion because it just came up.
Right.
It doesn't intimate that because there's a discussion, there's going to be a change.
Oh, understood.
I mean, I'm not I'm just
understood.
splitting hairs.
Yeah, that's not splitting hairs at all.
No, it's just like the word litigation. It doesn't mean it was threatened or contemplated. That's just the framework within which this project was looked at, resolved by stipulation, and again, they have to comply with it.
And at this point, I think it's only fair to make clear that the applicant has not communicated with this board.
Correct. No. Right. But in fairness, see, what I'm trying to get to, Joel,
right.
is those people who are out there reading or hearing this or watching this have to be reassured nothing has changed. The world is the same as it was last week and last stipulation signature date. It's just, and the fact that we're discussing it does not mean that you're going to change it or modify it.
Right.
You know? And that's what I worry about many times with people. Like your assessments, like, oh my God, what's happening? What are you doing to me? Like, calm down. We're not doing anything to you yet, until we find out and decipher all the facts and issues. Yeah, it's got to play out. Who's it?
It hasn't played out. We're not involved at this point.
No.
Plain and simple.
Okay, anybody else? All right. Well, would someone like to make a motion that we adjourn the meeting with the intent not to return to talk about tax tertiary update and police department injuries? Would someone like to make a motion?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you for coming, folks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Yeah.
Good night.
Yeah.